Hi, I'm Connor Mountford. I'm with the American Democracy Project, and today we have Professor Joseph Romance and Larry Gould here to give you guys a little talk about or a presentation about the implications of the new Trump administration. And here they are.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Let me start with the general stuff. Okay, go ahead.
You have a last-minute document put together here, which is a visual agenda to some degree, but like text, part of it's like Trump, part of it's in bold. So, what's the core of Trump politics? We're going to say a little bit about that. Joe and I will both speak to it to some degree. And then in terms of the critical thinking filters here, in the middle there are the logical and empirical implications of the Trump presidency, and to translate that simply, how does this thing all fit together, and what kind of observations can be made from the implications. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then Joe's going to do primarily domestic national issues, I'll do foreign policy, and we'll both pick on democratic structure and state and local issues. So you can kind of draw from that in terms of your own questions and the kind of sharing that you want going on. The democratic structure one is just simply, we think that the implications have an impact on American democracy in a variety of different ways. And so I'm sure you have some questions and some observations to make as well. So that's that item out there. I'll let Joe start, and we'll go from there.
Okay. What I want to talk about really briefly is just talk about a kind of general observation about all new presidents. Right? And this is not unique to Trump, but something to keep in mind as we talk about what the Trump administration may eventually mean. And it's always interesting at this time when new presidents come in to think about what ways they are new and different from their predecessors, but in other ways in which there's all these continuities that run through politics. Okay. So what do presidents in general face after an election? The first thing I want to say is they face expectations of their support. I mean, some of what I'm saying is pretty obvious, but it's the obvious sometimes needs to be stated. They face enormous expectations from their supporters. Right? It's a new time, that particularly when there's a change by parties. The out party has been out of power for a long time. In this case, 8 years. They now have control of things, and in this case, the Republicans have control of all branches of government. So there's enormous expectations to be managed. Right? That's the first point. The second thing is all presidents face the fact that we do not elect a king, we do not elect the emperor. We elect the president, who's the head of the executive branch. Again, this is obvious, but you're amazed at how much this needs to be said to people. Okay. So many people were mad, so many liberals were mad at the failures of Obama, right? Didn't do this, that, or the other thing. Well, he's not the king. He can't simply impose his will, right? We have three branches of government. And even in the case where the same party controls, there are different expectations. I'll talk more about this later, but what the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, wants is, even though he's a Republican and Trump's a Republican of some kind, Trump is, they want different things. Okay? And so one of the first jobs the president has to decide, whether he realizes it or not, is how to manage these expectations, how to manage his interaction with other branches of government. And he also has to decide, all right, how he's going to spend scarce political capital, on what to do. He's going to have to prioritize. All right. All presidents come in wanting to do 1,000 things, and they quickly realize that A, they don't have the time to do 1,000 things, and B, when they start making decisions, even within their own winning coalition, they're going to piss off people, right? Because they and they have to prioritize. They have to decide who they're going to piss off. It's not even a question of, by the way, it's mostly a question of upsetting probably people in their own coalition, because they have to prioritize one thing rather than another. Okay? And of course, what has happened to every president before he was president? To get elected, he made an enormous amount of promises. Now this is where, by the way, some guys get upset with politicians. They lie to us, they don't keep their promises. The actual evidence is politicians really try to keep their promises. It's not a case they lie to you. The problem is, and this is true of all presidencies, Trump included, is that they don't have the time and resources to keep all their promises. So again, they have to prioritize, and that pisses people off because the people in their own winning coalition that I thought he wanted my promise kept. Right? Now, there's already, to rush ahead a little bit, there's already some people in the Trump supporters who are upset because he's made it pretty clear at this stage that he has no interest in prosecuting Hillary, right? One of his campaign promises. There's not much to prosecute there, but that's for another day. The point is he's not even going to try that one. And so that's already pissed off some of his supporters. And Trump's challenge, to speak specifically of Trump here, is that he's not that popular. Really quickly, most presidents come in with a honeymoon period, and if you look at Gallup opinion polls or other polls, the American people, for the most part, want to give them a chance. So Obama's initial popularity, 80% of the people approved of what he was doing initially, in the first couple weeks and months. George Bush was in the 60s, Bill Clinton was in the upper 60s. And remember, George Bush was still the controversy over the Florida and his election and everything. So his was kind of lower. Trump's approval rating I've seen in all the polls I've seen is hovering between the low 40s to upper 30s. And usually what happens for almost all presidents is their popularity goes down. And that's what I talk about political capital, right? It's harder and harder to convince congressmen to do what the president wants to do if they think he's unpopular and it's going to drag them down. Two more points, and then I'm going to come to Trump. So if the one thing is expectations and managing this, and the second thing is, by the way, is the clock is ticking. Most things that happen to presidents happen very early in their administration. The biggest thing Obama achieved, policy-wise, like a set policy, thought-through policy, was Obamacare, and that occurred in the first 2 years of his administration. Whether it was a good policy or bad policy, it happened early. It's not that nothing happens after that, but it becomes problematic. Because by next year, guess what? Every House member comes up for re-election every 2 years. So by next year, every House member is thinking about re-election. And 1/3 of the Senate, so they're already thinking about that. And then by the time you get past the midterm elections, Trump, I assume, unless he changes things, Trump is very hard to predict. He doesn't operate like normal politicians. But he'll already be able to start thinking about re-election. Now, that doesn't mean things won't happen. But his best chance to strike, to get things done, any president, Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, is in the first couple of years of the administration for big policy. Finally, before we get talking specifically about Trump, all presidents face the unpredictable. Something's going to happen. Probably the most famous case of that in recent presidents, of course, is what? George Bush and 9/11. That changed the entire tenor of his administration. Okay? To a lesser degree, things happen, though. I mean, this goes back to the clock is ticking too. I mean, it's kind of not rememberable now, but do you all recall, maybe because I see a lot of students here, maybe you were too young, but some of the older people here might remember, what happened early in the Obama administration? There was an oil spill in the Caribbean that seemed to occupy an enormous amount of time with the president. That's nothing but the clock is ticking. Now, that wasn't nearly as dramatic as 9/11, don't get me wrong, but that's going to draw time and attention from any president. Something will happen in the next year that is going to upset his planned agenda. It doesn't mean it's going to stop it, but it means time is going to be taken away. If it's 9/11, it means everything's out the window. This is all we're focusing on. If it's an oil spill like Obama faced, it will have to be dealt with for several, I can't remember. You guys remember? Like a couple of weeks, a month maybe. That doesn't mean the president wasn't doing other things, but it was a main focus, right? So now to talk specifically about Trump and domestic and national affairs. All right, it seems to me that Trump has three things that he seems most focused on. All right, and I'm taking this both from his first early actions and his campaign rhetoric. And this is, by the way, what I'm about to say, I could be totally wrong here, and so I welcome challenges because I think we're all right now reading tea leaves a little bit. Okay, but and these are not in order of importance. Well, actually, I'll put them in order of importance. I think number one is the repeal of Obamacare. Okay? His very first executive action dealt with not repealing it. Executive action can't repeal, but he ordered the bureaucracy to interpret Obamacare in a different way, basically. The law itself includes the ability for the bureaucracy to take a rather lenient approach to who has to do the mandate. He can't, the mandate is like require you to buy health insurance or pay a penalty. Right? He basically instructed the bureaucracy in so many words. If you could think, and this is written in the law, there are exceptions made to, you'll have to pay the fine, right, if you don't buy health insurance. That's written in the law. He basically instructed the bureaucrats in Washington. If you could think of a good reason why to excuse someone, go ahead and do it. And that's within the president's power, right? The president has the power to instruct the bureaucracy about how to interpret a law. But the next stage, that is repealing Obamacare. And this gets back to the coalition has to be managed. Okay? Already, senators, Republican senators, are worried about, well, what if we just repeal it, what will happen? Okay? And think of the problem Trump faces. Okay? He's got a campaign promise, which he said frequently, I'm going to repeal Obamacare. His supporters do not like Obamacare. Yet many of them are actually recipients of it, but that's something we can discuss. Already senators Republican senators are terrified that if they repeal it and don't replace it with something else, you're going to throw anywhere from 17, 18 million people to maybe 25 million people get rid of health care for them. And those people are, guess what? Voters, right? And many of them are actually voters for Trump. On the other hand, if he doesn't keep this promise, what are the voters going to say? He's not keeping his promise. So anyway, we'll talk about this more in questions. We'll be happy to take questions. Is that do you repeal then worry about something else? Trump seems to be leaning towards repeal immediately and then we'll figure something else out. A lot of Republican senators are no repeal until we have some set policy we can immediately replace it with. Okay? So that maybe those 20-some million people who might lose health care insurance could simply move, ideally, seamlessly into a new system. And of course, the problem with that is they haven't really come up with what this new system will be. Okay, so that's Obamacare and its repeal and replacement. Number two are tax cuts. Trump did talk about that. It's one of the things he talked about during the campaign. And a lot of Republicans in Congress want tax cuts. Republicans always want tax cuts. Democrats sometimes want tax cuts. Republicans always want tax cuts. And what would they look like, and how would they be structured? So that's the next thing. And the third domestic issue, I think this is domestic. I'm gonna declare it domestic. I think it is immigration. What to do about immigration? We talked about the wall, whether that would happen or not. But even regardless of that, according so far, we're only in what day are we now? In day 3 of the Trump administration. Apparently, he's following, and this will really annoy people who are Trump supporters. His official policy seems to be to follow Obama's policy, which is not to focus on to focus on deporting illegal immigrants who have committed crimes, and not to focus on people who are here illegally but are law-abiding citizens. Okay, that could change. We're only in day 3 or 4 of the administration, but when yesterday, when asked what the policy on immigration was, a spokesman for Trump said, well, we're just going to focus now on finding illegal immigrants who have committed crimes and are potential dangers to the United States. And he put that in the context of actually breaking laws. And that's the Obama administration policy. So I'm curious to see. I think immigration will be on the list because it's something he talked about enormously. But we still don't know the contours of what that policy might look like. And again, as of today, it's the Obama policy. Okay, so I think there's a lot more there, but I think those are the 3 priorities that I see in reading the tea leaves in the Trump administration for the time being. And I think even these 3 issues, immigration, repealing Obamacare, and tax cuts, they have to be prioritized. I'm not sure he can get those 3 done, but he might. I think 3 is kind of the maximum limit that you could, if you want to do big policy changes. If you just want to instruct the bureaucracy to more or less continue policies under the previous administration, that's easy to do. If you want to do big changes, at best you can do is maybe 2 or 3 things, just to really go back for a minute. Obama, when he came in, wanted to do something about health care, and he wanted to do something about the environment. He was quickly discovered that the heavy lifting, getting a major law passed through Congress, he couldn't do both healthcare and environmental change, environmental policy change, right? And he prioritized healthcare over that, whether that's good or bad policy, but just telling you something. And then by the time the Obamacare got passed, there was kind of an exhaustion in the Obama administration already, and they had to sort of retire. They had to sort of just let things settle for a while and then move on to a new policy. That's enough out of me for now.
So I wrote down 3 things that Joe said that I thought go to that first question to some extent. What is the core of Trump politics? Most importantly, what does it imply? What does the Trump presidency imply? Well, it implies, Whitney's going to remember this morning, uncertainty of intentions. It implies impulsiveness. It implies insecurity of expectation. I mean, there's sort of a counterintuitive here in terms of what I wrote down as a title, in terms of the implications of the Trump presidency. I'm not sure that anybody can actually tell you what the implications of a Trump presidency are, for a whole variety of reasons, which we could talk about as we go along. But mostly encapsulated in what I just said about, you're not sure what the guy's going to say. You're not sure where he's going, and you're not sure what his intentions are. Maybe good or bad, depending on your perspective. But I think that's pretty much part of where we're going with the Trump presidency. Things will change from almost day to day and sometimes hour to hour. Let me read a few things, go back to my answer to what is the core of Trump politics. And I'm guessing you all have some kind of definition or some kind of observation that you can make about the core of Trump politics. Let me read this. Trump repeats lie about popular vote in meeting with lawmakers. The New York Times, January 24th, 2017. What's today? That was today. I mean, he talked with lawmakers yesterday and went in there and basically wanted to talk about getting along, and you mentioned it to some degree, or at least alluded to it, that Obama didn't really like meeting with lawmakers and he didn't want to collaborate and talk with people. He may want to collaborate, but he wanted to do it on his own terms to some extent. Well, Trump, at least somebody told Trump, that he should call in the lawmakers and talk with them. So he talked to the leaders of Congress yesterday, and very soon he was off and running about illegal immigrants were the cause of him not winning the popular vote. That's yesterday's lie. That's a recycle of a lie that was told a long time ago. If there's any evidence, if any of you have any evidence about illegal immigrants voting fraudulently during the election, tell me. If you have millions of them voting fraudulently, tell me even more, because it just isn't out there in the fact sheet, so to speak. So that is emblematic, however. The headline that I just talked about is emblematic of what I consider to be part of the core. And part of the core, and the best descriptor that I've heard so far, is the term post-truth. If I'm going to answer the question, what is the core of Trump politics, I'm going to start with, we're living in a post-truth era, which is very disturbing to people who deal in education and deal in facts and other folks, as I'm sure you've been following as you go along. It's such an important thing that the Oxford dictionaries made it the word of the year for last year, post-truth. So it's got to be pretty decent and important for dictionaries to incorporate it as a new term, new word, into their dictionaries. They define it as an objective relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. So now we have an era in which facts don't count. As Daniel Patrick Moynihan, a senator from New York and a real intellectual, once said, that you're entitled to your own opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. If I heard Kellyanne Conley correctly on Meet the Press and on Stephanopoulos' show on Sunday, she says we now have alternative facts. If you haven't heard this, there are facts and there are alternative facts. A little strange. So I'm saying to you, from my point of view, in terms of the answer to the question, what's the core of Trump politics? Post-truth is pretty much the core, at least from Trump's perspective. But that isn't the thing that's really got me excited. It's not just Trump's dissembling of the facts that are the real core, or trying to make claims and a lack of coherence, consistency, empirical veracity, or applied expertise, which he just has never done, is part of the core. For me, the big part of the core is citizens lying to one another. I'm a political scientist by trade. I'm a social critic. I'm a variety of things. But I've always thought that, democracy really depends upon citizens engaged in educated debate based upon the facts and based upon things that make a difference in terms of where we go as a country. But it's, again, citizens lying to each other that have me squinting and talking to the TV. I'm hearing people on talk shows and other places, here in Hays, Kansas, New York City, you name it, places I've been for the last 15 months, just saying things that are just way off the wall, that have no basis in fact. You can't have a democracy, even though democracies are messy to begin with. We all know that. We're constantly engaged in all kinds of debate. You can't have citizens lying to one another forever. They can lie to each other to some degree, and we've always had that, but on the scale that they're now lying to each other, it's making a real difference. It's a corrosive effect on our democracy. And I would argue that citizens lying to one another is really the core of Trump politics. It started out at Trump rallies and a variety of other places. Hillary took on some of this, with her basket of deplorables remark and some other things, but it was more in reaction than an initial action to her own beliefs, I think, about the world, generally speaking. And we can make claims about both of these people in terms of criticisms, but I really do think a lot of this is something that we really need to keep an eye on. So